Alright guys, and welcome back to the new tier list for the Duelist Cup, basically World Championship qualifier for the first stage, for the second stage, for the ladder. So which are the best decks right now that you should take to the event and afterwards to the ladder before we most likely get the new powerhouses Raidraptor and Malice. If you have not seen that video, go check that out. It's in the top right corner. Very interesting stuff right there. But without further ado, we have a lot of decks, so let's start. Our first deck is Unchained, and I think Unchained, and just to quickly mention this, we have the top decks category, the solid one, the mid, and then the don't, which means just don't play it. There are just way better decks out there. I think Unchained, if you combine this with the Fiendsmith engine, is definitely something that's either mid or solid. We will have to maybe rearrange this later on. We'll either end up being at the top of the mid category or the end of the solid one. We can get the Fiendsmith boss monsters to the field. We can get the Shabara to the field with the Rage, and then we also have the Caesar. All of them are quite nice, also are quite nice in some of the top decks, as we will see in a second. So I think this might be bottom of solid, but we will see. Might want to move this up to mid. The next one we have is Flaunderies. Just don't play this. There are just too many hits on this deck. Maybe someday if they release some of the cards and the meta is just right. Also, we need more dimensional shifters to make this deck viable again, but just don't play it. Talking about Exorcister, I think this is not a bad deck, but it's definitely a mid deck. The main problem is that it's basically power crept, and it suffers from the same problem as does Flaunderies. Given the fact that we don't have the dimensional shifter anymore, which was one of the, or we have one dimensional shifter, but the odds of drawing it are just a bit too low in comparison to having 3, so it's just not that great. Both of these decks would need access to dimensional shifter in order to be very strong, so a mid choice here, and will probably be ending up on the bottom of the mid category. Next we have the Dino deck, which is definitely something that can dominate the game if you can get the Triceratops that makes you untargetable. You can also combine this with yugioh, a new archetype that we will talk about later on, but overall I would definitely put this in the don't category, not as don't as Flaunderies, but it's just not strong enough for the current meta, which is why you don't really see it. Definitely needs a new support wave in order to become viable again. Talking about Yubel, this is a deck that not a lot of people are playing anymore. I think because a lot of people didn't like the deck, but I think this is still very strong with the Fiendsmith engine. Maybe not one of the top decks, but definitely one of the best solid ones, and definitely better than Unchained. The hits are not that hard for Yubel. We can combine this with Fiendsmith. Fiendsmith in this deck, unlike in Snake Eyes, will still get you into your Yubel engine. With Snake Eyes, this does not work anymore, or it does work, but it's a very tough route. Here it's way easier, and so I think Yubel is still a very, very solid choice. People are just sick of playing it, I guess. Goblin Bikers will definitely become more viable when the rising meta is around. Until then, I think this is more of a, and here comes the problem with the Unchained deck, but more of a mid strategy. But I think then Unchained also has to move into the mid category. Can't replace Unchained here and Goblin Biker here, because I think they are not that far apart from a power level perspective. Keep Goblin Biker in the back of your mind when we get the Raidraptor format, then this deck might be something. You know what, my personal hate deck, which is, and always, in every tier list, I don't remember the name of this deck. I'm not quite sure what this even is. Void something. Void something. I really hate this deck. It's not super bad, but I just won't play it. Also because you are playing very, very, very long games. I mean, this deck can obviously win and break a board, but you're playing so long games that if you really want, for example, to reach DLV max 20, or want to maybe compete even in the World Championship qualifiers, then this is a deck you should never ever pick. The games are way too long, the deck is way too bad. Fire King, I think, is kind of a sleeper pick. I definitely will put this in solid together with Yubel. I also think this is better than Yubel. Dodges all the Bestials. You can play stuff like the Dominus Impulse, which is very strong. We are talking Fire King combined with a little Snake Eyes stuff, right? So this is Fire King, Snake Eyes, basically. If we are talking pure Fire King, which I also think is not bad, I think I would place it at the bottom of the solid category over here. But other than that, Fire King, still super strong. You just don't see it anymore that often because, yeah, it has been played for a while, but also was my personal favorite Snake Eyes variant. Let me know in the comments what you think. I loved the Fire King engine. We have Super Heavy Samurai, which I just would not play. I guess this is a better combo deck than all the other ones, but the hits are definitely too much, and yeah, the combo potential is way better in other decks. Rescue is another one of these decks compared to Fire King, which is also fire. You can combine this with Snake Eyes. In my opinion, definitely not as strong as Fire King Snake Eyes, but also a good solid contender, because once again, you are dodging the Bestials. You have a really nice play under Maxi, where you can just go Turbulence and set 4, and this is a very strong play, dodging Maxi, or dodging the Bestials, which I think is kind of nice in this actual format. So I think that the Rescue Ace deck is, especially combined with the Snake Eyes engine, a very solid deck. Next up we have Tier Elements, and you can never really sleep on Tier Elements. We are combining this with Fiendsmith, and this kind of works. Still, I think this is a mid deck. I think it has a bigger power potential than these other ones here, but also can obviously just mill nothing. But you have so many good engines, the Fiendsmith engine, the Horus engine, and I think the fact that we still have Kid Kalos definitely makes it so that the deck remains in competition. We have Dragon Link, which was definitely a big player, and you can play a lot of Bestials, which that's kind of nice, but still this is more of a mid option, and I think it's worse than Goblin Bikers or Unchained. Talking about Primite, the Primite engine, or Primite Control, I think Primite Control is a very solid deck, might be even better than Rescue Ace. So we are talking Primite Control with Bestials, maybe with the Fiendsmith engine. We will talk about Fiendsmith in a second here also, but this combination of a deck, I think it's very nice, but we will have to see, because the Bestials with the hit on Blue Eyes are not that great anymore, because now Snake Eyes is definitely one of the top contenders once again, but don't you worry, this should be the last month of Snake Eyes. But I think Primite, Blue Eyes, Control with Bestials and Fiendsmith, a very nice deck, a very solid option. Then we have Witcher the Beast, which definitely is not that great into Fuva Laws, not that great into Dominus Impulse. Those are cards that definitely have made this deck worse. Can't really like put it under something like Dragon Link. We can still make the Protoss, call Fire, or maybe call Dark. I think call Fire might be the better option here. So this can definitely win some games and is quite okay, but definitely not one of the best decks that you can pick for the event. We have Rocknar Rika, which is also combined with the Rika engine, something that's, in my opinion, solid. So yeah, let's put it here. It's another combo deck that goes somewhere here in the middle. I think that Unchained is more consistent, and I think Goblin Baker is also more consistent. Then again, obviously, if you can get the entire combo through, then you will have an amazing endboard. We have the Raidraptors, which, and now let's just combine them together with Pearly. Let's talk about them together, because both of them basically establish a board with a boss monster that can't really be interacted with, which is always something if the meta is unprepared for that, and the meta is unprepared for that because nobody's expecting Pearly or Raidraptor. It's definitely something that always at least makes it so that we can't really place these decks in Don't, because if you can establish this uninteractable boss monster, then it's just game over. But this is like the core thing of both of the strategies somehow, and this, in my opinion, makes both of these decks worse than most of the other ones we have placed here in the mid category. Then again, I think Pearly is better than Raidraptor and also better than Dragon Link, so if you want to play one of these undefeatable boss monster decks, choose Pearly. We have Branded, and yeah, it's tough to say whether this is top decks or solid. Back with the Branded Fusion add 2. I think we have to put this in top decks, honestly, but this is considering the fact, so we are talking top decks if you are a very, very, very good Branded player. If you're not a very, very, very good Branded player, then I think this is more of like a bottom of solid, top of mid deck, because you really have to understand what you need to do. You really have to understand how to combo with this decks, the different lines. But yeah, we have the Branded Fusion back at 2. This is actually kind of nice. Konami definitely wanted to help this archetype also with the new artworks basically, but I think in the hands of the best players, this is one of the top decks. We have Ancient Gear, and now if we are talking about Ancient Gear, let's also talk about some other going second decks here. We have Sky Striker as well as Tenpai Dragon, and I think out of all of these, Tenpai Dragon is obviously one of the best ones. We will see whether we replace this in top decks or solid. Then we have Sky Striker, which I think is better than Ancient Gear, definitely, and also I think if you play Sky Striker at the moment, you also play Sky Striker Tenpai. You combine these two engines, just makes sense. You can use your Sky Striker stuff to draw into your Tenpai stuff that you can't find that easily anymore because a lot of them are limited. And then you can also use your Sky Striker stuff first to bait out interruptions, and then just finish the game with your 10 by stuff. So I think Sky Striker is honestly a solid option, not a solid option, but a good option. And Ancient Gear is honestly something I wouldn't really play. I mean, it still can win games, obviously. Oh, we have Gimmick Puppet. I don't have the Gimmick Puppet in here, I now realize, talking about going second decks. But let's talk about this for a moment in a second. So I would put this at the top of the don't category, and Gimmick Puppet, if we talk Gimmick Puppet as another going second deck, I think it's way better than Ancient Gear, way more uninteractable. You have to know the combo, obviously. But yeah, if you can go first, that's kind of nice. So I would put Gimmick Puppet somewhere here in the middle or at the bottom of the mid category. Also very, very long games that you need to play. We have the good old Sword Soul, and yeah, this just has been power crept, so I wouldn't really consider it at the moment. Maybe if we get the next support wave, but this doesn't even change a lot. So Sword Soul isn't just it anymore, unfortunately. We have Mermail, which this is definitely an interesting one. I think this has to go into the solid category. The question is, where does it fit? Because if you can get to your Moon and Glacier, discarding 2 cards from your opponent, if you can play through your opponent's hand traps, then this deck is very, very strong going second. It's also kind of nice. So honestly, I think if you are a good pilot, if you know how to play the deck, this is definitely a solid deck. Would I place it above something like the control deck here? I don't know. I wouldn't, honestly, but this is definitely a solid one that I also think you will see quite a lot in the event. We have Evil Heroes here, and we can combine this with the real heroes, if I can find them. They are here. I think Evil Heroes is worse than Normal Heroes. Obviously, you can combine these two. Normal Heroes is like mid-category combo deck, in my opinion, and Evil Heroes is even a bit worse, so I wouldn't pick any of them at the moment. Just be patient. At some point they will get good support, because they always get new support, so at some point it will definitely happen, but for now, not that great, both of them. We have the Gandora G archetype, which is something I would never use. Let's talk about some other anime archetypes as well, like Millennium here. Is there anything more we can talk about? Blue Eyes together with a Gandora, and then also the Red Dragon Archfiend. Is there another one that stands out here? Not really. Okay, so we have the Gandora G archetype, which is super, super bad. And then we have Millennium, which is, I don't know. I think this is a mid deck. Definitely not a bad one. You can play a lot of Floodgates, Dimension Fisher and stuff like this. Okay, maybe this makes it a solid one. This might be one of the Floodgate decks, and I think Floodgate will be a good option in this cup. I would still place it lower than some of these other decks, so we are really talking Floodgate Millennium here, not pure Millennium. Then I would put it here, otherwise Millennium would go down here in the middle, basically. Then we have Blue Eyes still. Is this one of the top decks still, or one of the best solid options? Let's put it at the top here. We will have to see whether this 10-pie Blue Eyes stuff, how this works out in the end. But obviously Blue Eyes is still super strong, but you definitely feel the hits for consistency, and I was really surprised when they announced the Blue Eyes hits. I wasn't expecting that, but yeah, it is what it is. We have the Red Dragon Archfiend, which has a new structure deck. That's nice. Honestly, I think this is better than something like Heroes, maybe Raidraptor, maybe also, I don't know. Let's put it here. It's not the greatest one, and I wouldn't take it to the event or to the ladder, honestly. We have Agro Stars, which is unfortunately an archetype that doesn't really work and will also not really work in the future, so just don't. Then we have the Shark deck. Obviously, this is the way worse water deck. If you want to play a water deck, then you play Mermail and Lanthian. Otherwise, the Shark deck is okay. I guess we can put it somewhere around here. If you can get your combo off, then it can be quite nice. But yeah, just play Mermail and Lanthian. I don't really like the water decks, but even I think that this is the way cooler one, honestly. We have the Volcanic archetype, the Dark World archetype, the Elden Ring archetype, basically. You have one play basically clearing up the entire field. Just don't play this deck. It's just not great, but there are definitely worse options here. But yeah, there's a reason why nobody is really playing this deck. Don't pick it up. It's just not great, unfortunately. Then we have Whitewoods, which is definitely still a solid option with the Azamina stuff. They will get new support in the future, so that's nice for them. But for now, this is still a solid option, and I would even place it over something like the Mermail deck, because I think that this is just a bit more consistent and can, just establish a few more real negates, which Mermail struggles to do. Obviously, ripping 2 out of the opponent's hand is super, super strong, but yeah, I think Whitewoods is still stronger. We have Melodios, which is honestly one of the better combo decks in my opinion, so we will definitely have to place it somewhere up here. I would even place this over Ritual Beast. You don't see this a lot, but I think it's very strong. You can also combine this with Voiceless Voice if you want to. Speaking about Voiceless Voice, let's talk about Voiceless Voice. I think this is a mid option. It doesn't really play into Max C, obviously, doesn't really play into Fuvalos, which is kind of nice. You can play Dominus Purge, which is cool, but yeah, the board that you are establishing just isn't really it, and so this is a solid mid option that I would place somewhere around here. Melodios, maybe behind Melodios, Voiceless Voice and Melodios. The Fiendsmith stuff, okay, the Fiendsmith stuff. So this is obviously Fiendsmith Control, Fiendsmith Bestial Control I was playing before, which was definitely nice, and if the meta wasn't that Snake Eyes focused at the moment, I would definitely place this higher, due to the fact that we have, yeah, the Snake Eyes once again here. I think this is kind of somewhere here in this area. I think the combination of the Primate stuff together with some Bestials and then Fiendsmith might be better than just like Fiendsmith and Bestials, just because Bestials aren't that great. You need to combine this with something. Obviously, you want to put this into your Snake Eyes deck, into your Yubel deck, and this is great everywhere, Unchained and so on and so forth. But as a pure control variant, where you definitely kind of want to play Bestials, I think this is a bit worse than also playing Primate, if you understand what I mean here, because the Bestials are not that great anymore. So you could also combine Primate together with Fiendsmith, but the best one might be to combine all of them into Primate, Fiendsmith, Bestial Control, if you know what I'm talking about. Then we have Vanadium, super power grab. Just don't play this deck. Not a bad combo deck, but don't play it, I guess. And we can also just put the Judgment Dragon over here, which is something that you also shouldn't play. We have Kashira, which definitely is super nice, because this can also play a lot of Banishment, Floodgates, Makrocosmos, Dimensional Fissure, and yeah, so this is also something that we have to put up somewhere around here. I think this is even more solid than the Millennium stuff. This will be one of the Floodgate decks that you will see that can grind out the game, can play Skill Drain and stuff like this. So a very nice one that will be very annoying, and you will see this in the event and on the ladder. Then we have Sprite. Sprite is once again back. I think this is one of the solid options. You can combine this with the Frog engine, or other engines could also combine this with Fiendsmith, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong here. I think that Sprite is definitely back, but wouldn't really place it very high in the solid category. But you can definitely achieve some great victories with the deck, with all the stuff coming back to Unforbidden. We have Salamangreat, and this is somewhere here at the bottom. I like it more than I like a Dragonlink, for example, but less than I like Pearly, just because the upside of having this unbeatable boss monster is better. Salamangreat is an okay option, but yeah, nothing too fancy here. You can dodge Bestials if a lot of people are playing Bestials, so that's kind of nice, but other than that, just nothing special. Then we have Traptrix, and we can also talk about Labyrinth here. Traptrix, definitely something I wouldn't play, especially because we have Labyrinth. And Labyrinth, I think, is here in the solid category, even if it's more at the bottom. Honestly, you can obviously tag your deck against a lot of different things, and can also play Floodgates if you wanted to. But I think the problem of the deck is just going second. Yes, you can play evenly matched, but then you're going first is worse. And I don't know, all of this doesn't really work out, so I think this is a solid option, but definitely not one of the better decks. Next up we have Mirinces. Don't play this deck. It's gone. We don't need to play this anymore. It doesn't really make sense anymore. And talking about another deck that I would put in the same category is anything XYZ related, or the Dark World deck, which I think Dark World has a better ceiling. The XYZ stuff, I don't know, just don't play this. Jandora might be the worst one of all of them. But yeah, these are just decks that I wouldn't go for if you want to be successful. We have Mathmech, which is kind of a sleeper deck, still a mid deck. We have not seen any changes to Mathmech Circular still, maybe when Malice comes out, but we will see. So you can definitely still take this deck and win a lot of games, which is why I can't really place this lower than here. This is definitely one of the best mid decks that you could choose. In my opinion, a solid option is Centurion, even though I would put it a bit lower, maybe over, yeah, I would place it here over a Labyrinth. I mean, the deck has its full support, and if you can establish the end board with one Quasar Dragon or with two Cosmic Blazer Dragons, then it's just game over. You have a lot of different ways to play the game. A lot of your ways to play the game don't really get stopped by classic hand traps, which is kind of nice. Once again, playing into Max C and Fuva isn't that great, but I think that Centurion is a very solid option to pick. Okay, only a few left. We have Vanquish Soul, which, yeah, I mean, Vanquish Soul, it's okay, I guess. Somewhere here in the mid category. There are a lot of decks I would play before I would play Vanquish Soul, to be honest. Will get amazing support in the future, so this is definitely a deck to keep an eye out for, but for now, it's just not it. Then we have the Chimera deck, which I have really not seen in a while, but I think is still a very good deck. So definitely goes into the solid category for me here. I think this is even more solid than Centurion. Both of them you don't really see anymore because, yeah, these are just not the top decks. As you can see, we have a lot of decks before them here. But I think this is a sleeper pick. This is a very nice deck. Can establish like annoying floodgates via the Diabelsi and can make Guardian Chimera, can make a lot of different stuff, can play the Fiendsmith engine. So in my opinion, very nice. You don't need to play a big Chimera Baphomet engine, but this is definitely a solid pick for the event or the ladder. Then we have the new one, Yugioh. We have the entire support, by the way. This I realized later on. I think this is not super bad, so it's not a don't deck, but it's also not a deck I would recommend, honestly. I think it's better than something like Heroes, but then, yeah, I don't know. I'm ready to put this over Dragon Link, but this is where it stops, honestly, and also only because we have the entire support wave. It's okay, you can play it, but yeah, it's just not the archetype from the pack that was impactful, because the archetypes were Rising and Malice. It's just not that great and will not perform great at the moment, and probably, unfortunately, never. We have the new Crystron, which is definitely a solid deck. The question is, where is this going to be placed? I think this is better than Mermail, which is why I have to put this here. Is this better than these Fiendsmith control variants? Honestly, I would say it's better than Whitewoods, so we might have to move Whitewoods. And yeah, I would place this under these Fiendsmith control variants, but over something like Whitewoods, I think Crystron is nice. Also dodges Bestials, can get stopped quite easily in some instances, and doesn't build the most oppressive end board. Going second is also not super great, but it's a very solid deck that you can definitely take and be quite successful with. We have Drytron, which for me goes into the don't category, and let's talk Mimighoul here, one of the top decks, obviously. No, Mimighoul is not bad. You can play this with Fiendsmith, which I think is the best version, but yeah, this still doesn't make it way better than a mid deck. I mean, the fact that you can play Fiendsmith in this, this helps every deck basically. Maybe this is better than Salamangreat. I'm ready to place this over Salamangreat. This I would definitely do. It's not a bad deck, but just not something to write home about. Okay, and we have two decks left, Memento and Snake Eyes. No surprise, here Snake Eyes I think is the top deck at the moment. Memento, it's also a solid deck, yeah, but it's a solid deck. I would play it over Yubel, I think. Let's put Yubel a bit lower, okay. And now let's think about this Blue Eyes Temper Dragon stuff here. Do I really think that Temper Dragon is better than Blue Eyes? Honestly, no. I would say Blue Eyes is here, and then I would put Temper Dragon at the top of Solid. Honestly, or do I want to put it at the top of Solid? This is a really tough one. Now let's move it a bit further below. Let's put it under these variants here, under the Fiendsmith control variants. Yeah, I think. Come here. I think this is how I like it. This is my tier list for the event, first stage, second stage, for the ladder before we finally get Malice and Rising. Let me know in the comments what you think of this. Where do you think I'm right? Where do you think I'm wrong? Thanks for being here, and we will see each other in the next one.